I found a black pearl in Mexican first grade. Not literally, of course, but figuratively. To find a black pearl is a bad thing, a superstition that promises something dreadful is coming. What started out good for my young self quickly turned bad and worse. See, my family moved because my father quit his job. The pressure of being supervisor had become too much. I think he had a nervous breakdown. So, why he chose Mexico, I don't know. He became a starving artist in oil painting matadors and seascapes along the Sea of Cortez. We became his ruddy, carefree children. Living in Mexico was a wondrous adventure, a real delight for a child of 6 and her 4-year-old brother. We ran and played on the beach from first light to sunset. We built sand castles, we dug clams, we climbed the neighbor's low wall. In this we made collections of dirty cigarette butts, shells, and dried up starfish. True, tourists and fishermen fished. We ran to greet full pangas, small fishing boats, at the docks. The locals built fires and smoked the day's catch as they smoked their cigarettes. Then, when no one was looking, from our neighbor's private patio wall, we smoked the nasty things too, and pretending on the same stale prize cigarette butts we had found. We jumped on an old tossed outdoor mattress. Mom didn't know a thing about these. We splashed in the waves. The universe was vast to one so small. At night, we dipped salt spray from a starlit sky. We read Archie and Marvel comic books by the light of a smelly, sooty kerosene lamp. We drank agua del sol from giant 10-gallon water bottles. Primitively washed our dishes and flushed a small toilet. We swung in and out of bouncy bunk beds suspended by chains. Our parents got after us for this. We laughed and carried on in being children, racing breakers on the seashore, flying toward Rocky Point on a bumpy, low-ride, low-tide beach. We rode a yellow, red flyer wagon. This was pulled by our huge German shepherd, our beloved dog, Zeke. And then things changed. Mom bought a Spanish to English to Spanish to English dictionary. She decided I needed a more formal education. She didn't know what she was doing in this. Public education in Mexico? Well, this was different from kindergarten on the avenues in Salt Lake City. No flower power or love south of the border for me. I was quite doomed from the get-go. Mom took me to the Mexican school in search of a cultural experience because she was curious. So we found gray, whitewashed cinder block walls accented by dirt floors. Dirty walls and dirty children. Dirt everywhere. I didn't want to be there. But amid the dirt, a sea of white teeth. Broken words coming from the mouths of dark roast faces. Small children with dark eyes and dark hair and greedy hands on my face and my long blonde hair. Then, my mother crudely attempted to communicate with someone in charge. I sat outside the small administrative office on a folding chair, reduced to staring. Then it got really noisy. An anxious, shouting man ran desperately toward me. He held a screaming, bleeding boy. The child's foot was cut wide open and blood was flowing freely everywhere. There was excitement and urgency. I understood. Fear, in spite of language barriers. I was afraid for the boy, and I was afraid for myself. My mother came out of the little office, not the least bit concerned about the trauma. She handed me the small dictionary. She gave me a kiss and a hug and said, "I'll be back later to pick you up." "No," I replied indignantly. "Yes," she said, in having the last word. Then she was gone. And so I sat there, in the middle of everything, new and frightening. I screamed inside and sobbed outside for hours. Eventually, I took my place in the back of a modest classroom. I cowered like a stray dog with a little yellow dictionary tail. My eyes peevishly crawled up, up, up the teacher's back. But mostly, I just looked down. Down, down, and bawled. Scrit, 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 went the chalk on the blackboard. I felt the weight of many black eyes staring at me. I watched suspiciously the continual shifting of small, curious bodies and dirty, motoring mouths. They were whispering in the endless chewing of something. I didn't know what that something was at the time, what they held and tongued in their mouths. The Spanish. In time, my mother returned. We had a tearful reunion with increased sobbing. I leached onto her legs in a death grip, never intending to let go. Then, after this great emotional release, I wiped my tears away and I ran. I ran back to the little trailer on the beach where I found smiles again. I swore I would never go back to that classroom. But we did return. We returned a few more times. These times my mother stayed with me. I wouldn't have it any other way. I believe she enjoyed this education. She smiled and nodded incessantly. I fell silent, with downcast eyes. Wow. And then the schooling was over. As fast as it had begun, it ended. Again, in pulling up stakes, we moved back to the States, to the American life I had known before.